What is up? What is going on?
Woo!
Holy moly. We are here. We are live. This is actually the first official live.
I'm getting you uncomfortable, baby.
This is the official fully live stream podcast of Sales Tales. So I was in this house. I have an extraordinary human being on with me today. So without further ado, I will introduce the OG, the master of the hustle himself, Mr. Jason Walker.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, man. What is up, Everett? Dude, I'm super excited to be on the Sales Tales podcast.
So, Jason, before I get into the rules, because there's rules, okay? Why don't you introduce yourself for those that are listening, don't know who you are. You had to be living under a rock, but for those that don't know who you are, tell them who you are.
You know, they call me J-Dub Moneymaker. I'm the guy that's making HVAC sexy to the younger generation is what I say. Started off with the podcast, HVAC Masters of the Hustle, which elevated me to be a trainer nationally, helping people learn what's possible in the trades, which then explored to me throwing massive events, and we're high energy. We're a lot of fun. And man, do we know how to make an impact.
Yeah. And you coach what, 100 companies or so?
Yeah, I'd say, it depends on what platform, we got platforms that we have several hundred, which is our subscription base, but typically our on-sites, everything like that, we're typically going about 50 to 100, I'd say, on sites, depending with all my coaches.
So, so this becomes really interesting. So this is going to be the first podcast I think that you've done where no one's selling anything.
Nah.
No business processes. No, how do you improve your business?
This is the dirt that I don't talk about. I'm going to let you all know. Shit happens in the trades, right? Shit happens in HVAC. And I'm going to tell you all, I have been in some crazy ass moments, and I'm going to be sharing it live with Everett. And I don't think I've ever told these stories. And these are stories that are, hilarious. They're fuck up moments, right? Like, you got to learn from your mistakes, right? I'm not perfect, y'all. We do all mess up for sure.
So, okay. So here's the rules. Okay. Now, rule number one, it's everything's in good fun. Okay. Rule number two, if you're offended, and I'm talking to listeners, you're the problem. Because it's all in good fun. Number three is don't be a douche, which we don't have to worry about that. And number four, stories must be true. So pretty simple, 4 ground rules. And from what I understand, J-Dub's got some zingers, some zingers. So pop it off. What's first? What do you got?
All right. So I'll pop it off with this one. So a lot of people love, we'll say Indian clients, right? I hear it all the time. And so I would say that I'm pretty good at selling to Indians. And so, not to be offensive or anything, but I'm a person that learns culture, right? And so this is a really strange but funny story. And I happily involved this homeowner with a brand new system, all the bells, all the whistles. And at the end of it, this gentleman looks at me and he's sitting in front of me. And there's this bowl in front of us. And it looks like muddy, nasty, mucky water, right? And there's a sponge in it. Like, I'm not talking about I'm talking about like a dish sponge. And so at the end of this sale, he wants to celebrate. And he goes, "Oh, I got this drink for celebration. You want to take it, right?" And I'm always a person that's like, all right, let's celebrate, right? I am a person that if I was on a sales call and they want to take a shot with me, I'll go take a shot to celebrate with them. I was that type of comfort advisor. And so I took a shot of what I believe is kava. I believe it's like a root of a plant. And so when I shot this thing, all of a sudden, fast forward maybe like a minute, my mouth goes numb. My throat starts going numb. And all of a sudden I find out that this is like a root from like an opiate plant. And it's like, I don't know, some people hallucinate off of it, I think. So that was like a one and done, one time only type of situation. And I mean, it's just wild, right? The things that we run into. Another story that I wanted to talk about real quick, unless you had some questions about that one.
Like, so in that moment when you drank the kava and it was
I didn't even want to drink it, dude. Like, you got to put yourself in this situation, right? You're sitting at a table and the guy puts a cup in front of you and you think he's going to pour something in this cup, and he reaches in a bowl and grabs a sponge and squeezes it in the cup. And now you have to take the shot with him.
but what was the sponge? It was just like sponge?
It was just the way to get it in there. I don't know.
So the guy was soaking kava on a sponge?
That's what it was, man. Crazy.
Are you sure? I don't, Jason. I don't think he was a dude. I think he gave you. He said
all I
it was
know is
kava.
it was like a root, and he was like sitting there and he was grinding it up. It looked like muddy water. I thought he was gonna take it and like pour it in my cup, and it was just like, nope. Grab the sponge, squeezed it in, put it in my hand, said salute.
Yo, I don't think you were drinking. I don't think you were drinking kava, man. That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I mean, the soaking of the root part, like I kind of understand that, but yeah, that's weird, man. Oh man. All right, so you got numb, and then you were just like, okay, I'm bouncing out of here. I'm done.
Yeah, I went and I was like, what the heck did I drink? And I went into my car and I'm researching it and I'm like, oh shit. So I called dispatch and I'm like, hey, I just drank some stuff. Hey, I'm telling you, if you want to take the rest of the day off, right? I called dispatch and I was like, hey, my stomach's not feeling good. My mouth is numb. The client gave me some weird shit to drink. And yeah, I got to take the rest of the day off.
Wow. What else you got in the arsenal there?
Oh, let's talk about me selling a client a system, and after the install, finding out it wasn't their house.
Yo, what?
Uh-huh.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So here's the scenario. Okay. I'm dispatched a call. I drive to the call. It's an elderly gentleman. I'm going through my comfort survey. I'm sitting there at the table, and you know what? He's old, so I'm like, I got to involve a kid. So luckily, hey, you know what? The daughter actually lives with them. So I'm like, cool, two birds in one stone. I don't got to reset the appointment. Don't got to get anyone on the phone. She joined us at the table. And so after all said and done, happily involved them. Set them up for an install. Install guys get to the job. They start doing the install. Install is completed. I get a phone call. Who the fuck is on my roof? Get them off my goddamn roof. And I'm like, whoa, hang on. What's going on right now? And he's like, I just got home and I got your workers up on my roof installing a system, and I never okayed this. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what just happened? So here's the story. I had the older gentleman, the daughter, right? I'm doing my comfort survey. The dude's telling me he's lived in the home for like 30 years. something like that. Daughter's sitting there and she's like, yeah, just agreeing to everything. And I'm like, okay. Long story short, I ran through financing. They got approved. And what happened was the son has the same exact name, like first, middle, last. I don't know how it happened. I don't know how finance screwed it up. But anyways, or I screwed it up. But I sold the dad that is living in the son's house for X, Y, and Z years. But I guess he had dementia and thought he just kept telling me it was his house. Right. I've lived here for years.
But the daughter was there with you.
Here's the other thing, right? I'm not judgmental. She was a fucking crackhead, right? He
Oh
goes,
my
she was a
God.
crackhead. I talked to your sister. And he goes, didn't you see that she was a fucking crackhead? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, this is a total misunderstanding. Like, I completely.
So the son didn't want the work done at all. He was like, he didn't even know you were there. So
He didn't know I was there. He didn't know. So what happened was, I guess he was out of town, or maybe he didn't live in town, or he was on vacation, came back, and we're installing this system. The way that I ended up winning him over was it was a financed under his dad. And so his whole thing was, how the fuck's my dad going to pay for it? I say, hey, if your dad doesn't pay for it, it's not tied to you. And after I
that's
told him
actually
that,
true.
he's like, all right, I'm good with, cause I was like, hey, it's our mess up. We'll go over there. We'll take it off. Like, I completely apologize, and I said,
So
but on the other hand,
did you guys leave it in the house? Did it stay?
yeah, it stayed.
Okay.
Dad financed it. I was a smooth talker.
So we got some chat, some people in the chat box here. So David asked, did you get paid? And I guess the answer is yes, you got paid. Wow. That's bonkers.
Oh man.
That's bonkers.
Oh yeah. Crazy.
So you do a lot of ride-alongs, but before, and I want to get to that, but what other kind of crazy nonsense have you run into in the years? Because you spent how many years as a HVAC sales rep?
I did that for about 8 years.
Yeah, 8 years. So
I'll tell you, being a bounty hunter, if when you're sales, right, a lot of us are commission based only. And so if your installers don't collect and the company doesn't get paid, what happens is, well, shit, you better go collect that money. Right. So you end up turning into a bounty hunter, and you got to go find these people. You're calling them, you're hunting them down, because once they got the system installed, right, it's like out of sight, out of mind. People go back to their daily life routines, and no one wants to really meet up with the contractor. So there's been times where I've been bounty hunting, and bad times too, where maybe the installers or the company or myself didn't follow through with something that was supposed to be done, and we're waiting for a collection or something like that, right? And they're not wanting to pay, and you have to go out there. And dude, I've had guys, not me personally, be mad at me or upset, but at the company and things, with like baseball bats. I've worked in the ghetto of Stockton, 209. You guys watch UFC, you hear about Nick and Nate Diaz, right? I've sold to some gangbangers that have guns sitting there on their table, like some scenarios that you don't really want to be in.
Yo, that reminds. So, all right. So you've been in houses where you got gangbangers and they'll just pay cash.
Oh yeah, dude. I can't. And that's what I talk about, not prejudging, right? You'll go into houses and you're like, dude, it reeks like fucking pot. Like, these people are straight drug addicts. But then all of a sudden you sell them, a $15,000, $10,000, $12,000 unit, and they're like, oh yeah, I don't need to finance it. And then they go get their shoebox and they got like $50,000 freaking.
Yup.
And you're like,
what's it? Yeah, you're like, yeah. God, what were we saying?
No, go for it.
So let me ask you this: what is the scariest scenario you've ever been in?
Oh, scariest scenario.
Like you didn't feel safe. Like, yo, this is the end of Jason Walker.
So not really me being a comfort advisor, but doing on-site trainings. I've
Really?
been, yeah, during like the whole Black Lives Matter thing.
Really?
I went to
Where?
some, Indianapolis was a bad one. Alabama was a bad one. There was a
Really?
point in Alabama where I've never been, I guess, how would I
Hey,
say it?
listen up, man. Can I just say this? Right. Rule number 2 is if you're offended, you're the problem. This is a safe space. It's a safe place.
I've never
We're in
been
the
in
tree of
like
trust.
I've never been in like where there's like me in the middle of like racism, right? And so I'm
Okay.
in the middle of Alabama, and I'm with the African American comfort advisor, right? Black guy. And we go walk into this house, and all of a sudden this black family answers the door, and they pop their head out. They look at him and goes, "You come in. You're not coming in." And
To
I'm like,
you?
"Well,
To
yeah,
you?
to me,
What?
to me." So so
What?
so the comfort advisor had to go in there and let him know that I was a national trainer and I was doing on-site ride-alongs, but it took them about 5 minutes to conversate to allowing me to be inside their home.
Yo,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool though. I'm sorry. It's just kind of a cool situation. Like you can come in. You stay out
You
here.
stay out. Yeah, and I sat on this
Yeah.
wood patio, bro, in this like, I mean, like run down neighborhood. It was gnarly. It
Yo,
was
but tell me
gnarly.
those aren't some of the best sometimes I love meeting people, especially old people in those neighborhoods.
Dude,
And they got story.
I went into a neighborhood like that was pretty scary. You're talking about some scenario like wow moments. Some scenarios where like I went into the basement and the kids are sleeping on like mattresses and there's like you see chains and shit.
Oh,
Like some
whoa.
gnarly stuff, and you gotta go report that stuff, right?
Oh, dude.
Like,
I wasn't even gonna bring it up because but I'm gonna do it because you brought up the story. I was actually gonna do a standalone episode of like these like because people have been submitting. I've been getting, people just submitting stories. Like I'm getting messages, and this guy he sends in, his name's Rob Martin, right? And he sends in this story, man, and it blew my mind. Okay. He was in northern Indiana. Okay. It was like 6 or 7 years ago. And he goes down into the basement and he gets in there. The guy's kind of weird. And he's like, furnace is down over here. And he brings him down to the furnace. He's like, hey, furnace is here. Like, real direct with him, right?
yeah,
Brings him down, walks him over. Okay. So he looks around. He's like, this is weird. He sees doors in the basement that like he saw like little plates of like scraps of food on these plates outside the doors, and he sees
gnarly.
these little slits in the door, and he's like, bro, they're keeping people here. Like
That's
he's like,
crazy, right?
dude, he looked around and he's like, yo, people are literally being kept in here. And he could hear somebody in the room crying or something like that. And he's like, yo, he doesn't say anything. The guy says, fix the furnace, then, fucking leave.
Yeah.
Okay. So he waits till the guy goes in the other room. He takes a bunch of pictures and he bounces. He ends up calling the cops as soon as he leaves. Detective calls him up, goes, brother, he's like, I'm so happy that you called in. He's like, we have been trying to get a search warrant in that place for a long time. And he's like, so they went in there, bro, and dude, he saved like 3 or 4 girls, bro.
That's
Saved their lives.
amazing.
Saved their lives.
Listen to that, right? And so I don't know the follow-up of the story of when I went down in that basement, but I could tell something was up, but I did report it. You know, and then there's been scenarios, or not scenarios, but there's been a scenario where I went to a house that the guy was deceased, and then I had to get interviewed. So
Oh, you got there and the dude was dead?
yeah, I got there and he was already dead in the house. He didn't answer, right? But they had it on the Zoom or whatever it was that I was out there or whatever. So they had to
yeah.
stuff,
And you came in and you were like,
I went out
I'm gonna pop this guy.
Yeah, I went and did an estimate, and I think it was an old lady or something like that. She was already unfortunately deceased already in her house before we went out there. No one could get a hold of her or anything like that. And yeah, they ended up finding her just from like age. She was really old.
Huh. So tell me like the weirdest actually, I'll tell you what. I know you got a bunch written down, man. Go ahead. What do you got?
No. Tell me. What do you want?
I'm thinking like, what's the weirdest scenario you've been in? Just like something that you're like, you can't explain. You're like, what is going on here?
So, I mean, we all get in weird situations, right? But I would say probably the most uncomfortable situation that I've been in is back in the day, my duct cleaning days. You know, myself, I had an assistant that would help me do duct cleanings. And what happened was I was at this, I mean, beautiful big house out here in Granite Bay, California. And this homeowner, I mean, first off, she was gorgeous, beautiful, right? And so I when I do and start my duct cleanings, I first locate all the supply registers and I let them know that I'm doing it. Like, hey, I need access to all the bedrooms. Typically, I'll say, hey, do you want to give me the tour? She didn't want to give me the tour. She said, go do your thing. And so I'm walking around the house, everything like that. She knows what I'm doing. And all of a sudden I get to the master bedroom and I walk into the bathroom and I'm like, all right, so here's a register. Here's a register. And I mean, this lady is completely butt naked, panties, fake, right? Like completely just like caught in like shock. And you can tell like she has something planned, rehearsed, like, you know, and I was just like red face, walked out. My apologies. And that was one of those moments like, what do? Do you go back in there and finish the duct clean, or do you call
so do you think she stayed? You think she knew you were there? Like she was gonna be in there? Like you think it was staged?
Oh, absolutely. I think something was happening, bro.
So
She had like a fetish or something for like some technician or something. I don't know.
So I've had three guests, and then I was on Gil's podcast, I guess, yesterday. But in the 3 guests that I've had on this show since we started this thing, every single one of them has had a story of a nude or mostly nude or partially nude woman. Every single person. It might just be one of those things, right? How crazy is that? Like you would never expect that. Hey, how about you ever see those like really weird, like, I mean, I'm talking like the uncomfortable boudoir photos.
Dude, I've heard of yeah. Oh yeah. When you walk into their closets and shit, like think of that, right? The uncomfortable situation of first off, going in California, a lot of us have attic units. So we'll go walk up the attic access and we'll climb up. And then all of a sudden you see like either their drugs up on the top shelf, you see all their sex toys, you know, you see all their shit they're trying to hide. And it's like, it's wild. It's
right.
wild.
They thought they were hiding. They thought they were hiding them, and you're actually going up to where they hit them. Like they didn't think you were going up in the attic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but dude. So, all right. So what's all right. So what else you got on that list there? Because I want to make sure you got enough time to
Let's see. Hoarder houses. I mean, we all go into them, right? I want to see or hear from people that are listening. What is the worst hoarder situation you've ever been in? Okay. Now, my story comes from a gentleman that was probably had to be 400, 500 pounds. Like, I mean, a
Mm,
big guy. I don't think he could get around much.
mm.
And, um, in a situation like this, I mean, I talk about prejudging. I probably should have prejudged and walked away. But I put my installers probably in the nastiest situation that I could put them in. And I'll send you the picture of it so you could post it in this story. But it's probably the nastiest thing you guys will ever see in your life. And these bathrooms were just like piled and piled of shit, human shit.
Oh my
Like the guy hasn't flushed his toilet in years, where it's
God.
just
Oh,
literally going over the
oh,
toilet. And I'm
oh,
I'm talking about everywhere. Like
oh.
painted on the walls. Like it's disgusting, right? And I happily involved them. I didn't go in the bathroom more than just like doing the quick heat load calculation or whatever, right? But I mean, hoarder stories are disgusting, right? The things that we walk into, I've got into situations where they actually use the return inside the wall, like under the staircase or something, and they put the cat litter box in there, and the cats go in and out and everything like that, and
Oh,
it's like
and they don't even realize
don't
that.
even
Oh my
realize it, right?
God. Oh my gosh.
Like just
Wow.
nasty, nasty, nasty stuff. So, I mean, not even just hoarder situations, but back in the day when I was an installer, I did an install at a nudist colony.
That's interesting. Ha- uh-oh.
Yeah, I hear mom's here, so
Uh-oh.
it's good.
You got, yeah. Hey, that's a good story. So yeah, you recently, right? You adopted a baby.
Yeah, yeah. So, I'm a
Yeah.
big advocate about adoption and everything like that. And my wife and I, we finalized our youngest little JC. He's 3 years old. We did finalize that about 2 years ago. So we weren't even on a spectrum of adopting. We told our social workers not to close our file, but not to like bring awareness to us because we were just not interested. And God works in mysterious ways, Everett.
Mm.
We got blessed with the phone call the week of Thanksgiving. And I was able to take my daughter home on Thanksgiving and met her at the hospital. She was a newborn and she was born a month early. And unfortunately, with the situation of the parents, she needed a forever home. And God challenges us, and it's hasn't been a easy battle the last 2 months, with her being a preemie and everything like that. She's on a feeding tube. My wife and I, we got to feed her every 2 hours on the hour, making sure she's gaining weight and everything like that. So there's a couple surgeries that they're talking about that we're hoping that we'll be able to prevent from happening. But if it's
Mm.
in her best interest, we got to do it. But it's slow, but getting better. But
Yeah.
with the faith of everything that's going on, it's all going up. So
You have two of your kids are adopted or all
three,
three?
all three. So
All three.
we got my oldest, my 7-year-old. We met him at 10 months old, brought him home. He's 7 now. His name's Don. Then we got little JC. We brought him at 8 months, and he's 3 now. And then little Mackenzie.
That's amazing. Hey, and I said this on one of the other episodes, but so I commented on that video that you sent out when when you adopted, and it was a very emotional video. And I was and I know this is a little off topic, but I wanted to bring this up to you. So
Yeah,
and I had said this, and I don't think people know, a lot of people don't know this, but I was adopted.
yeah,
And I made mention, and it was, it's I am always so happy when I see people who go down that path. First of all, I know the lists are very, very long for parents that actually want to,
Yeah.
that want to adopt. But on the other hand, there's so many kids that don't get adopted. So it's so crazy to me. And so I can't be a bigger advocate. And so like it made my heart swell like so many sizes to see like, dude, I got a buddy of mine who, it has adopted 3 kids, and I thought it was just 2, but anyway, so God bless. I mean, I'm super happy. I know a little off topic from the
it's all right, dude.
But you know what, dude? I mean, dude, honestly, bro, I mean, it's incredible what you've done, and the fact that you've adopted these kids and they're going to have incredible lives, and they're going to see a father who is such a hard worker and goes out there and gets it, and he goes after it. And you can't, there's no greater lesson than the stuff that we're talking about, all those experiences, thousands and thousands of homes that we were in. Yeah. There is no greater lesson in the world than teaching, your kids, the lessons that you've learned along those paths. Yeah. And then you're sharing that with other companies. You're sharing that with other guys around the country. So super cool. And that brings me to my other point. I talked to Gil about this last night, right? So tell me that these experiences in houses, right, haven't shaped you. Like you haven't met somebody or many people that in your sales career where you're like, you went home, you told your wife about that person. You were like, yo, listen to what happened. Do you have a story like that? You have a story where you're like, man, I just met the most incredible person.
Oh, I too many stories to even talk about, because that's one thing that we talk about is understanding getting on that deeper level, right? So, I mean, to the point where people open up and they tell you like, I had a situation. This is actually a really cool story to talk about. I did an on-site and I was preaching about people don't know us inside the houses, right? And if you could connect with them, they'll tell you the craziest shit. Okay. And so I'm walking around the house. I have a great relationship with this lady. And all of a sudden I see the craziest thing randomly on her counter, like on this, not on her counter, but like on this display, on this beautiful display on the wall. And it was the most random thing because it was an A1 steak sauce bottle. I'm like, what the heck is this like A1 steak sauce bottle just sitting here? Right. But the story that came behind it was something that I would have never thought about. And the story that she told me was her son passed away and he was in love with A1 steak sauce. And I guess he ate dinner at home, ended up getting in his car and ended up getting in a car crash and ended up dying. But that was the last thing that he had his hand on that he left before going to get into his car. And so his ashes and everything were inside the A1 bottle, or some of his ashes. So that's what it represented, right? So, I mean, it's like those connections that you make with that homeowner, you hear these war stories, you make connections with elderly people that you install new systems, and then all of a sudden they pass away the next year. And then you send their family flowers and stuff like that. But I always try to make a friend every time I happily involve a homeowner with any system replacement.
You ever hear a really cool war story?
I've heard some crazy war stories from some dudes. Yeah.
Any that come to mind? I love to hear these.
I've heard of a dude kind of like a Forrest Gump kind of. I don't know if he was relating to the Forrest Gump movie, to be real. He was a little sauce back, but he might have won it. But he was telling me that he was in a war, and he said that there was bombs getting dropped from airplanes, and he was running back to grab his platoon. And he was carrying them over his shoulder and everything.
Oh, that's straight up Forrest Gump.
But you're coming on thinking about it right now. And I'm like, dude, I remember this guy was drunker than shit. And I'm thinking of Forrest Gump right now. And you're asking me to tell the story. I'm like,
he just told the
Forrest Gump.
He just told the Forrest Gump story. That was it. That was the
Yeah.
scene from Forrest Gump.
I don't know if
He's
you told me he
running.
got shot in his butt too. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God. So, all right. So, how about that? You got sauced people who are sauced. You got drunk stories.
Oh yeah, dude. I got videos of people that I would take on my phones that I still have today where I'm like selling them, going through my spill and them just babbling off, like taking shots like in front of you, just drinking, pounding beers and beers and beers and beers, right?
Yeah. Well, they got to get ready to spend a whole lot of money. They got
I
to
know,
prep themselves.
you know,
Yeah.
and then you get those criers too. Fuck, summertime, California heat. I don't know if anyone else does it, but I can't tell you how many times I've been into houses and they start crying in front of you. And you talk about emotion and tapping into emotion. It's like, man, people will start crying because they can't afford it or they want it and they can't get it done. Or maybe they're just like, fuck, why do I got to do it? And they just got to do it and they just start crying. It's like, I've had so many criers,
Dude.
so many criers.
Dude, I had this woman, okay, single woman in the house. She was, I don't know, we'll say she was about 50, okay? She sat there and she was literally told me this story about when she was 14 years old, okay, that she had gone down to the harbor. All right, this is in Jersey. Gone down to the harbor, this area called Old Bridge, and it's a place where there's water. Anyway, it's like it's on the shore, and some dudes came out of a car, a limo, and they like I don't even want to say it. It was terrible. Like they took it, they beat her. She ended up going to the hospital. They took advantage of her. It was like sexual assault, the whole deal. It was a terrible story. And she's telling me this. By the way, I met this woman like literally a half an hour earlier. She's telling me this story. Now, mind you, people like you and I mean, people open up to us. Like, it's just the way it is. Like, I get a lot of people who just open up. I'm friendly. You know, I'm welcoming. I'm warm. I'm not judgmental. Right.
Yeah.
Dude. So this woman, okay, sat there telling me this story. And it turns out that it was apparently a political wow person in office's son who had done this with his friends. And they had sued and everything else. And she talked about this story about how they paid her, okay? And it was never in the news. It was a hush thing. They buried it all. They paid her a ton of money. And I think they were still paying her to that day. She's sitting there, dude. She cries her eye. I'm talking from her, like bawling to a point where, and she looks at me. She's like, oh my God. She's like, oh, that feels so amazing. She's like, thank you so much. Thank you so much for just being there. And, you know, this is kind of like therapy for me. I don't know you. So I could just,
I could just open
I can
up.
just open up. She goes upstairs. She grabs $10,000 in cash and she pays me for the job.
I thought she was going to say she tipped me 10,000 for the conversation.
Yeah, tipped me 10,000. No, she went to pay. She went to go get cash. She just went upstairs and she was like, I was like, you need financing? She's like, no. She went upstairs. She pays cash. That story blew my mind. This woman was sad. She was broken. That situation ruined her life.
What was the best tip you ever got?
Not much, dude. No, people didn't tip me a whole lot. Maybe $100, you know. Like, here, have $100. More than anything, I think people like, they would be like, come to my shop, have whatever you want. You know what I mean? I have a store over here. Like, I got my doctor.
What's the
like,
coolest thing you got from someone?
Oh, let's see. Oh, right behind me, actually. So I have a music room. You can see all the guitars hung up and everything, right? So I had this dude give me a record from the 1970s. And it's just one of those things that I remember because we were sitting there. He was hammered, right? It was this gay couple and this guy's hammered and he's flirting with me like crazy. And he's like, Everett, I want you to have this record. We didn't even talk about HVAC. He just like, it was just like, he's going to put music on. and we're going to listen to music. And that was it. And we listened to music, and then they bought an HVAC system. And at the end of the night, he put the record together and he hands it to me. And he's like, I want you to have this record. I was like, all right, cool. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah. Meat, like hunters, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Giving me meat, you know, like frozen meat. I have in my garage. Okay, check this out. There was this house, and this was like this 100-year-old chest, like this treasure chest thing. You know, like this huge, right? The huge old ones with the almost looks like wallpaper inside of it, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm talking like 5 feet wide, right? Huge thing. And me, man, and like now I'd never take it. Like I would never move something like that. But dude, I was young, man. I was probably like, you know, it's like 10 years ago. And I was like, I like that trunk. They were like, you want it? We need to get rid of it. I was like, okay. So I put it in my trunk. I dragged it out. I literally dragged it out of the house. It was like, he helped me get it onto my truck. And I was so happy because I got this humongous trunk, like from the 1910s. And I still have it. I keep all my Halloween decorations in it.
So you still love it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Not so much.
Yeah. Not anymore.
Let's see. The nudist colony install. I did an install at a nudist colony, which was like kind of crazy. You know what that is, right? A nudist colony?
Yeah, it's people are walking around naked.
Yeah, but there was tons of them. and you're just installing.
It's a lot of naked people.
It's a lot. Like, it's not naked people you want to look at. You know, it's typically like your hippies, old people, like free spirit.
Well, you are in California, man. You guys are crazy over there.
But yeah, man, some wild stuff I've been in, you know, the last 15-year journey of doing this crazy trade.
What is the freaking funniest thing that you have ever experienced where you might have had to like walk, like turn around, like just, you know, not show the homeowner that you were like about to lose it?
Homeowners having like arguments in front of you. And what I'm saying is when you could purchase an HVAC system, it could be a stressful situation, right? And I've had homeowners have straight up like arguments, like uncomfortable arguments where you do want to pack up and leave. Like, so maybe not like laughing, but it's like, holy crap, awkward.
Yeah, we talked. It's so funny you say that. Somebody said in the chat on Gil's podcast said that they think that that's like they don't want to buy, so they start arguing instead. It's like
I don't know. I think I don't know. This was a bad one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like
slamming doors and like just like, holy crap, you really doing this in front of someone that you don't know?
Yeah. So there's this dude, and I guess they were getting divorced, and he was there, and so he still owned the house, and he berated. He was like, "Oh yeah, woman, like, oh yeah, well that's why you're ugly." Like literally, like would sit right in front of me. Oh yeah, is that right? Oh, is that right? Huh? And he turns to me. He's like, "Hey man, you want a reason not to get married? Go look at that woman right there. There's a reason not to get married. Look at this woman over here." Like he was like straight up, like to a point where it was embarrassing, and she was like biting back at him in the house, and she is like racking up the bill. Like she's like, "Oh yeah, no, we're gonna go with that. Oh yeah, I'm getting the 2-stage. Yeah, that variable speed sounds fantastic. Oh yeah, no, I'm getting. Oh, you got Nest cameras. oh, we need 7 Nest cameras, a doorbell. And because I was doing like home automation and stuff like that. And she was like, oh, and he's like, oh, are we now? Are we? Oh, yeah. You think I'm paying for this? Yeah, you pay for it. It's your house. And this is what we're having. You don't like, it was, I mean, back and forth. And they ended up buying. He ended up buying. Like, you paid us. I was like, okay.
You're like, crazy.
Crazy stuff, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Let me ask you this. Do you have anything that is like the saddest situation that you've been in? Like something where you just left the house and you were like, yo, that was so sad. I got to get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I do talk about this though. People probably have already heard it, but when I worked at Bell Brothers, there was a scenario or a situation where there was a family that was diagnosed with cancer, and the little girl she was like a little 6-year-old girl, and they couldn't afford a new system. They had their house tested. It had like mold, everything all through their ductwork, their system, things that were extremely deadly for her to breathe. And like, I was there for like 2-3 hours trying to help them out, trying to get them financed, but their FICO score just completely plummeted with all the medical bills, and there's nothing they could do. And I mean, I left and the whole family was just in like tears. And then I went back to the office, and Ken and Jerry ended up installing the system for free. But that was like, I mean, you talk about working for the right people, right? And like that was probably like the craziest scenario where like I left the house and I was just like, whoa, like this sucks. There's nothing I could do.
I did that twice last year where I had one of my guys called me from the house and they were like, hey, like there was this grandma that ended up getting custody of the grandkids because the mom and dad ended up getting, I don't know, jail, whatever it was. And she was literally like borrowing money to buy groceries just to feed the kids, and no credit, no nothing. And we ended up, he called me. He's like, hey, we gotta do something here. This woman is like just inherited. She's a grandma. She was like in her 70s, and she had inherited these, these couple of like, young kids, and she's just trying to put food on the table. And so we ended up doing the system over there for free. And I called her and I was like, hey, I'm just letting you know, like, we're doing this. I'm ordering it up. I've got like a unit in the warehouse. Let's go. And she just broke down, dude. She was like, I can't believe this. That's amazing. And we went out there and did it. And I love stories like that. Like I think part of why we do this too is it's hard to describe to people outside this business, like when you're in it, and even on a transaction that is fully paid for, but to change people's lives, where I don't think people think about this, but if you think about it, right, in our industry, like you're changing people's lives. Like you can go into a scenario and fix. I've had moms call me back and say that their son's asthma doesn't bother them anymore because of, anti-germicidal, systems installed and duct cleanings and sterilizers and all sorts of stuff. And they're like, you have no idea. I had a woman who literally, I went back to the house and she was wearing oxygen in the house for 2 years straight. She had COPD and all these kind of things. And she invited me back. She's like this older woman in maybe early 80s, late 70s. She invites me back in. She comes in. Her daughter wasn't there at the time. And she goes, I want to show you something, Everett. And she takes the oxygen off. She's like, I didn't even want to tell my daughter, but I've been walking around the house and I've been doing errands without the oxygen on for the first time in 2 years. And that's because of the recommendation that you made and what we've got going on in here. And that was like a full gut and UV and anti-germicidal lamps and dehum, like also the just bringing the humidity levels down, right? Like having the airflow, having better airflow in the house, having better, circulation, media air cleaners, the whole deal. And literally this woman took the oxygen off of her nose to show me this, invited me back. And that was the coolest story like ever. It made me feel so amazing. And that house smelled musty when I got there. Like originally when I first went in the house, it was musty. Like it was like, okay, there's a lot of organic growth going on in the air. Smell it in the air. Yeah. So yeah, man. So while we get wrapped up here, I think we've almost spent about an hour together. You have any sort of lingering scenarios, lingering stories you want to share with the world, J-Dub Moneymaker?
No, I think I'm good, but I think, the fact that people are jumping on this gives you the opportunity kind of to learn a different side of J-Dub, right? You got to learn about some of my fuck ups. You got to learn about some funny things that I got to, endure in the industry. And, we're not all perfect. No one is. So I'm happy to get my stories out there, my venture, and listen to the next ones coming up.
Let me ask you this before we hop off here. You have anything that's happened not necessarily on a ride along, but that's happened in someone else's company where you went out there and it was like a bonkers scenario? I'd be interested to see.
Like, what do you mean? Like a fake situation set up?
No, I wouldn't even think about that.
Oh,
I was saying, was there anything like you went out and you were like employer situation,
Oh yeah, I've seen two employees fight each other.
Just fist fight?
Yeah, just fist fight. Like, hey, just two installers, tired of it.
On a job?
No, they waited after.
What
they
back?
did in the yard.
Really?
Yeah.
Were they partners? Did they work together in the field?
Yeah, install lead and helper.
Really?
And they duked it out.
Really? Was it on the property? Was it at the shop?
Yeah, it was, and the owner was okay with it. They shut the gates. Fucking installers and the technicians watched. I'm not gonna name the company, but yeah, crazy.
That's funny, dude. All right, J-Dub, man, I gotta tell you, man, this has been so much fun. Before we go, man, why don't you plug yourself, your podcast, anything else you want to leave out there in the world, in the ether, for those that may not know how to find you?
Yeah, check me out, HVAC Masters of the Hustle.com. That's my training platform. You guys could check out all the podcasts, has the YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, HVAC Masters of the Hustle. And then check out the podcast for the last 5 years, consistent every single week. Y'all never miss one episode. So check it out.
HVAC Masters of the Hustle.
Don't forget it.
J-Dub Moneymaker, bro. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for this. I know we're early on in the journey of this podcast here, but I'm so happy that you were one of the first guests on here. And dude, God bless you.
Blow up, baby.
I believe it, man. God bless you, dude. Take care of those amazing kids, man. God bless you. Congrats on the adoption, and try to get some sleep, man. All right.
All right, but take care, man. Appreciate you.
All right, later, bro.